Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back here on the RENNSPORT Twitch channel to the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League, where we enter round 5 in season 4, round 3 in season 4, my bad. Today with the GT3X Porsche 911 GT3R RENNSPORT. And it's going to be quite interesting because we have 18 cars here today. We have some prominency present, let's say. And I think it could be very interesting in terms of the championship, because our main rival for our championship leader is not here today. But before I talk too much, I'd say we just jump right into qualifying. Today, unfortunately, without Tim, so you have to make do with my voice for the evening. But we have Kai Angermeier, also known as Der Kaya on Twitch, known in this race. Of course, one of the more present content creators here on RENNSPORT. So it's a great pleasure to finally have him here in these races as well. In the Platinum liveried Porsche will be quite easy to see because he is the only Platinum liveried Porsche. We have another 2, I think, Diamond liveries and some Playseat ones. Coming down into the Dunlop Kehre. Purple Sector 1, of course, doesn't necessarily mean much here in this one-lap shootout qualifying. But it all looks neat and tidy. Let's go to our championship leader, Enrico Bräuninger, in the Playseat Porsche. He's currently sitting on 39 points. Can have a quick look at the standings. Julian Chicot on 31, and he is not here today. Same for Theodor Popper. So, good chance for him to extend his lead, but Ali Zai and Dominik Ladler, as well as Roger Nisch, are all in this race. Of course, looking for their chance to get some points back from the championship leader. Being asked in chat by, of course, the team leader, if we find some NGS RT drivers in here, and unfortunately I don't see any of them. Big lineup for RRT. Total of 4 drivers. And maybe we will actually hear the voice of Tim, which will greatly improve this broadcast quality. Let's actually jump to Dominik Ladler. He's, of course, one of the most decorated drivers in the RENNSPORT community. If you've taken a look in the new Hall of Fame, you will have seen that he's got quite some accolades to his name. But let's welcome Tim to the broadcast. Hello, Tim.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a bit late. I forgot, to be honest.
Happens to the best of us. It's close to Christmas, lots of stress for some people. But maybe also lots of stress for the drivers here on the Nordschleife. So we go towards Flugplatz, nearly flat out in this car. Of course, with open setups, maybe some have found a way to make it a flat corner. Big moment here over the crest for Kaya. It seems like he has had a little contact with the wall on the front right of his car. Some other RT drivers. Dennis Kurzer. He's also always been quick on the Nordschleife. He hasn't raced in every round this season as far as I can see. He has skipped round number 2 last time out. But he's back here today with the GT3X. I think it's a car that he likes. He really likes a Porsche. So, expecting some good performances from him here.
There are quite a few people who are just, I will only drive Porsches kind of people. Not something I'm particularly that bothered about personally. I will drive any car with varying degrees of success.
Well, it definitely shows who the specialists are, even though the GT3X, of course, is quite a bit different to the regular GT3 or Cup Porsche. It is a lot more aggressive, a lot more downforce. That wing doesn't look gorgeous. I mean, it looks gorgeous, but it doesn't only look gorgeous. It also does produce a lot of downforce. Same, of course, for that front end. Huge canards on the sides, so... yeah, this car seriously has a trick up its sleeve compared to the regular GT3R. And it seems like it will be a fight for pole position between Enrico Breuninger and Kaya at the moment, coming towards the half lap point. Enrico having a purple sector 3. So we now come towards the carousel, the most iconic part of the Nordschleife perhaps. Even if you don't know what track it is, everybody has seen those concrete platings.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most original parts of the track, isn't it? I mean, every track's got a straight. I know they're not always as long as Dottinger, but we all know what a straight is.
We certainly do. Oh, and Enrico spinning and into the wall. Now that...
Oh, what?
well... seems like my internet is trying to manipulate the fun we will have today. So don't be too bothered by what you see on screen. That is because of my trusty German internet. Let's hope that this was the outlier for today. So we have a good final broadcast of 2025. Because of course it will be the last broadcast on this channel in 2025.
Not the last broadcast. We will be back.
Yeah, and I think next year better than ever. Got a lot of stuff planned, a lot of stuff, well, on the menu, let's say. Especially in terms of competitions outside of our usual leagues. But all eyes now on the fight for pole position here. Alizai with purple sectors 1 and 2. I think Sugar will be the first one across the line. He started the lap pretty early.
His car's looking a bit beaten up. The front of his car seems to have quite a few dents and scratches on it.
Coming out of the final chicane. What can he do coming across the line? It's a 7.52.9. That's a very good benchmark already. Kimi Harpler, can he take it away? Yes, a 51.5 for the Swede.
That's a pretty nothing gap for the Nordschleife as well. So that should be a pretty decent fight between those two.
Dominik Lala and Kaya are going to come across the line pretty simultaneously. I think the Austrian may have a bit of a better lap time. Alizai with the 51.3. Dominik Lala's 7.57. So the 7 forecast with a 7-minute lap time. Lots of crabbing going on for Philip Rossler here. It's not the ideal situation for a car. So it seems like pole position is going to go Alizai's way, and I think that's a very good start for him.
Yeah, I'm assuming Kaya got a bit of a slowdown at some point because his time is very much off what I expected to be.
The last few cars are going to come across the line. 2 cars unfortunately didn't make it to the end of the lap. But that doesn't necessarily have to transition into a bad race. We've seen that before. Comebacks are always possible, especially here on the Nordschleife. But it is a good start for RT, isn't it? 4 drivers in the top 5. That is
it's a bit of a lockout for them, isn't it? He can dictate a bit of the pace if they decide to play together there.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, GST as well, Shrigo in P3, Michael G in P7. Of course, much less GST drivers out there. But for RRT, this is looking very good indeed. Let's hope that this time there won't be any issues. But at least 2 of these RRT drivers are still in the World Championship fight, I'd reckon. And while everybody is going onto the grid, it's just a moment's time until we go racing. But we do have a very good mix of drivers, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's a fair mix of abilities and lap times, but it's always difficult to tell exactly from qualifying how it's going to turn out. So I suppose the proof will be in the first lap, I suppose, as usual.
We have 17 cars going down into a very tight chicane, the Yokohama S. The red lights are on. And we go racing in the Nordschleife. It's been a very good getaway from the top 3 drivers. Dominik Ladler struggling off the line, now having to defend from both Dennis Kurzer and Michael G as Alize is leading down in turn. Enrico on the outside of Kimi Habler, the 2 diamond Porsche GT3X side by side. Seems like everybody got through cleaning. And Kaya Angermeier from way far down the grid now alongside Dennis Kurzer up into P6. What a start from Kaya Angermeier.
Unfortunate start for Michael G from GST, who got a drive through at the start there, but so he's going to have to serve that in the next couple of laps. But except for that, pretty clean from everyone, I think, there.
Indeed, and the Michael G, of course, now with that penalty, very unfortunate for him, but he is in front of Dominik Ladler, which, well, for our most successful driver in the community, maybe not the best start to the race to have dropped down that position. Dennis Kurzer basically switching places with Michael G as well in the process. Oh, and a little bit of contact between Kaya and Dennis Kurzer. And both spinning around. Can they keep it point direction? And everybody with a good job at avoiding it and further contact. Oof, not the start to the race that Kaya would have hoped for.
No, definitely not what you'd put down on your wish list for the start of a race. But he seems to be okay, so we'll see what he makes the rest of it.
Michael G now under pressure from Dominik Ladler, but it's very hard to overtake on the Nordschleife at these speeds. And still a very tight train from Pascal Meiser in P7. We're pretty much down to Roger Niche in P14.
Harry back of that train, Kaya at the minute.
Indeed. Harry Houdini trying to make a move past Nemesis Pro, and up front Alizai under pressure from Kimi Hapler and Shuryu. Look at the speeds they're doing through Flugplatz. It's such a scary corner, and they are all in dirty air. Yet none of them are lifting.
Despite being in second place, Kimi Harpler with the first 3 purple sectors of the day. The 4th sector going to Enrico Bräuninger.
HAVIT moving past Nemesis Pro in Arenberg. Nemesis Pro just sliding a bit wide, and the Dutchman not leaving it on the table for a second. But look at that train of cars. If I was Pascal Meiser, I would be a bit thrown off by that. Oh, and Kaya Angermeier trying it around the outside in Metzgersfeld. He is backing out of it, because it is very dangerous to do.
Yeah, he was trying there. He'd set a bit of a move up, but he just didn't quite have the overspeed to get past in a decent amount of time. And fairly wisely there, I think, backed out a bit.
He's still trying to get past now in Spiegel around the outside Spiegel. And there's a very slow Michael G. Seems like he had a bigger impact with the wall, but what a reaction from both these drivers to get through on the inside.
That's a couple of places for Kaya there. He'll be happy with that. That's for sure. Maybe needs to calm down a little bit. His heart rate is probably pretty high after that.
I mean, that first move already required a lot of bravery on his side, and then to have this slow car suddenly in your way. Of course, Michael G cannot just disappear into thin air. That's physically not possible, as Kai is now moving up into P9 past Nemesis Pro. And Kimi Harpler maybe trying a move on his teammate into Moodkurve, but I think he's too far away for that.
Yeah, they're slowly growing a gap on Bräuninger back in 3rd, who's got a bit of a gap to Ladler back in 4th. So they're probably not wanting to do too much right now, he says.
Tell you what though, the level of commitment from the top drivers in this race is insane to see. We've seen them drive GT3s for a long time, we know how they drive, but with this car you go at most points in the track 20 kph faster, and Aliza losing the rear end going to Hohe 8 and contact with the barriers as well. But that's just how razor sharp this car is, how much on the edge you have to drive it. And that's one of our top contenders. And it seems like Kaya is also losing the car. Also just before Hohe 8, so maybe a bit of a hotspot in this race, drivers have just found out. I think the last GT3X race we had was with fixed setup, if I remember that correctly.
Think so, yeah. It's been a while since we've used the car, that's for sure.
And
Ali Zahir having a lot of bad times there. His car is not looking good. And he's got a long way to go before he can get around to the pits.
yeah, that is not a car you can drive the rest of the race with. It definitely has to be repaired. I know that some of these people, notably the 5 people we've seen up front before, have played around with setups. So maybe they've set them up a bit too sharp. Maybe cars are not able to handle that, and especially when tire degradation comes into play. But nearly approaching 300 kph going down into Hohenrhein. And I think we will see quite a couple of cars coming into the pits after this first lap.
Yeah, there's been a few bumps and bruises around the track. Some people definitely want to come into the pits and get their car working a little bit better.
But it is, even though it's just 1 hour, it is a race of endurance. So even if you have some issues now at the start, it doesn't necessarily mean to be its race's end, because others can still make mistakes. And it's something that we've typically seen with this car especially.
We've just seen the race leader, Ali Zahir, making a pretty big mistake and ending up back in 11th, 12th right now. As he gets to the end of Dottinger, somebody coming into the pits. That's Andreas Gau.
Can see also Michael G coming into the pits, Ali Zahir. And 4 cars not finishing the first lap. That's just how brutal this car is. But unscathed from that, P2 on the grid, currently leading the race, Kimi Harpler.
Michael G also coming in for repairs, which means he won't be serving that drive-through penalty. So he's going to have another trip through the pits in a later date.
Oh, and Enrico nearly losing the car, going onto the Nordschleife. So that maybe opens the door for Dominik Lalic to now slowly chip away from his lead and potentially look at a P2 finish here, make some points. And get closer to Enrico in the championship.
Ali Zahir down from his air jacks and is setting off. Dennis Kurtzer should be going in another 5 seconds. And that is everyone out of the pits.
There we can see Dennis Kurtzer moving in the background. But we have some pretty interesting drivers now in the top 5. Jörg Masorat and Noah Zaringer. They may not have had the pace in qualifying to compete for the top 5, but with others making mistakes, their cars looking very clean. That also can bring you high up the order. I can't really talk today. It's been a long day.
It's nearly Christmas. We'll let you off.
One of the drivers who was in trouble who didn't come into the pits was Kaya, so maybe car not as problematic to drive as he first thought. And he is definitely making way. That's because Simon V Racing is in the wall coming out of Flugplatz, and Kaya also had a big twitch going through. What was that move? Going past 2 crabbing cars.
He threaded the needle there, that's for sure.
I think that was Pascal Meisel, and he had a big off. That is the rear right of the car. The suspension destroyed the front right of the car. He is driving that with probably about 45-degree steering angle into the wrong direction.
Yeah, it's not a good thing this early on in the lap as well. It's a long drive to get back around to the pits.
And even for Michael G with his drive-through, it doesn't look too bad. He can still get away with the top 10 finish, because Andreas Gau, who's behind him, is 24 seconds behind, so he will emerge just behind him. Of course, he has quite the distance to Nemesis Pro up front, but it just takes one of these guys to also make a mistake.
Nemesis Pro had a few incidents during that kind of like little spell a minute or so ago, so his car isn't looking brilliant. He's going to have to be pretty careful, I think.
But it is a very painful lap for Pascal Meisel, because it happened very early in the lap. Probably the worst feeling you can have, but it shows determination, it shows character too. keep on driving and not giving up. So
yeah, for sure. Because that is not a happy Porsche.
Kimi Hapler out front, 4.8 seconds to Enrico. There's another 4.8 seconds to Dominic, so gained about half a second since Hatzenbach. Oh, but... Oh, maybe a bit of commentators cursing because Enrico lost it out of the carousel. And with that, Dominic Lala went past. You know, we've stopped making predictions for the races to prevent this from happening, and it kind of still starts to happen.
The commentator's curse is just too strong. It's OP. Nerf devs.
Now we get some nice views. Enrico chasing Dominic Lala through the woods. It is for me one of the most fun parts of the track, this downhill section from Hohe down to Galgenkopf. Just feels
It's
very
brilliant when you
rewarding.
get the flow right. It just feels really natural when you're in the right timing. Of course, if you get out of the rhythm, it immediately feels hideous.
That is very true. And one thing that Enrico told me today that I also just noticed, that he has his emergency lights on in homage to Julien Chicot, who started doing this in this league. But look at how unstable the front end was going through Sprunghügel. The cars are really on the edge with the setups these guys have made. I know that they have taken off a lot of downforce. So let's see what they can do on the Döttinger Höhe, one of the longest straights in all of motor racing. On board with Enrico Bräuninger. As he flies past Dominic Ladler. Well, not quite flying. Seems like Dominic has a little less wing than Enrico has.
Yeah, obviously had some overspeed there, but not able to kind of complete the move. And now they're side by side, which can always make things interesting.
Enrico taking or getting out of there, but that could have been very nasty between the two of them. But they know each other, they've raced each other so many times for race victories. And now also for championships. Alizar getting closer to Andreas Gau for P10.
Yeah, and at some point, Michael G should come in to serve his drive-through, and that might get Ali Zahir another position.
Meanwhile, there has been a question in chat whether rating is on in this race, and yes, it is. So the official RENNSPORT competitions are with RENNSPORT rating enabled. Now Alizar trying to make a similar move to what Enrico has, but he has more of a gap starting on the Döttinger Höhe, and you can see him creeping closer. A little bit of a weave from Andreas Gau to break the slipstream, as we have the crabbing car of Pascal Meisel there, who's close to finishing out the lap. Alizar making his way past and up into P9.
He started from quite a way back there, but he managed to pick up just enough overspeed to make the move and give himself a little bit of wiggle room so it wasn't too close. Michael G just coming in to do his drive-through now.
Indeed. He should emerge a bit behind the two here. Not too far away, so... Pascal Meisel now, of course, also coming into the pits. It's not an agonizingly long pit lane here at the Nürburgring, luckily, especially for a track this long.
And Michael G back out and on track. Up 10 seconds behind Andreas Gau. So he got a little bit of work to do, but he is in the top 10.
And Enrico moving down the inside, going into Schwedenkreuz, cutting across the grass. What a brave move here by Enrico.
Kimi Harpler in P1, he's just rocketed off into the distance with these two having a bit of a fight, slowing them down. So Kimi got 11 seconds on currently Enrico Bräuninger.
I'm not sure if this fight is done yet, especially if Dominik Lalla can keep on until Kesselchen, the long uphill section of the track. But what a determination we've seen from Enrico Bräuninger this season. Seems like
yeah, he's had some very good races, hasn't he? He's really been kind of like fighting at the top end of the field here in the community events.
And he just had a big drift through, well, Death Corner, I think they also call it. I mean, I think it's probably called Cottonborn, but yeah, whatever. Death Corner sounds a bit nicer. But
a few sparks there as he hit one of the higher up curbs.
Very low to the ground, this car. Relying a lot on ground effect.
Pascal Meisel out of pits. Carrying on, despite his massively crabbing car. Well, not crabbing anymore, but what was a very crabby car.
And I think Dominik Lalla has a bit of slight exiting that will lose him a bit of speed. But he may still be able to get close again in the slipstream, which is really powerful on the uphill section. But yeah, Enrico really seems to have upped his game since his RCL victory in Season 7, I think it was at Spa. Which was a fantastic victory, definitely. But since then he just improved. Although he did complain a lot in a certain time frame. Some of that, of course, for good reasons. But he just has adapted to his surroundings and since then hasn't looked back. And he's currently leading the championship with quite a margin and holding off one of, well, the RENNSPORT Nordschleife champion. When I put together the data for the Hall of Fame entries, which you can check out on the Discord, we have introduced a new Hall of Fame, which includes all the RCL, RNL, RFL, whatever events we did. Champions and winners. I've put together the list and I was surprised just how much Dominik Lalla has actually won in the Nordschleife series as well. Because he's the Nordschleife League champion from season 1, 2, 3, which is every Nordschleife League until this one. And also the season 3 Founders League, which if you are not with us for as long. The Founders League was basically the predecessor to the Nordschleife League. Of course, back then the Nordschleife Founders exclusive. First season won by Maximilian Dehn, second one by Adrian Lunio, and the third one by this man. And Enrico Bräuninger is trying everything to stop him. Oh, big drift for Dominik Lalla. And somehow keeps it on the track. How did he save this Kite,
It was an impressive save. That was some drift angle there.
especially with the counter steer, which is of course the very deadly thing in a Porsche. Everybody who has ever driven any 911 Porsche in a sim racing game, or potentially in real life, but I think that is a more minority kind of thing, knows that the counter steer is super aggressive on these. But he still managed to hold on to it. Of course, lost him quite a lot of time, 1.3 seconds now the gap, but you can also see the delta is going down at the end of the Dirtinger, so he's definitely running less downforce than Enrico. Will it pay off in the long run? Who knows? It seems to currently pay off for Enrico because he has a very stable car.
Yeah, and Ladler's had a couple of moments on the last lap, trying to stick with and Bräuninger, who's presumably got a bit more downforce in his car. So it's not a cut and dried best setup situation, that's for sure. They seem to be fairly balanced.
Kimi Habler out front though, as you said just a lap before. Doesn't really care about that. He has 15 seconds now to Enrico Bräuninger. And he's just running away with it, essentially.
Yeah, he's just set the fastest lap of the race, doing a 7:52.155. Quite comfortably ahead of everyone else as far as best lap time is concerned.
Jörg Masurat and Noah Seringer also still holding up very strong in P4 and 5. 5 seconds apart, these two. As I think Alizaya's moved past Nemesis Pro, who's stationary. Oh, and in a very precarious situation, but can free himself. We've seen cars being stuck on that curbing before.
Yeah, he's quite lucky he got going there. I thought it was balanced for a second, but it balanced on the under tray, but it just managed to get going.
Andreas Gau also moving past. Michael G will probably also get by.
Ali Zahir's next opponent would be Kaya Angama, but he is 60 seconds down the track, so a lot of time to make up in the next 34 minutes of racing.
Indeed, it is a big ask, definitely. It all depends on who can keep it on track. I think Kaya, after his first off, has learned the car a lot more. He seems to have had very stable lap times, and he's constantly chipping away from the advantage Noah Seringer has over him.
And Ali Zahir just setting the fastest lap of the race, doing a 1:51.841. So he has got the purple lap right now. That lap over 10 seconds faster than Kaya's. I don't know if Kaya was involved in anything, a bit of fighting.
Can see like this little details in terms of driving this car. Kaya just steering to the right, going into Sabine Schmidt's curve ever so slightly to turn in earlier, basically. To load up the outside tires, to use as much of the track as possible. The car is so nimble that you can basically use every millimeter because you can react so quickly. And Dominic Lala is also getting closer to Enrico Bräuninger. And of course the upcoming sectors are more advantageous to the higher downforce Enrico seems to be running, but Abkässerchen, big chance again for Dominic Ladler. Indeed, we mean 758, not 158.
Yes. Nemesis Pro and Dennis Kurtz are making a little pit stop. Nemesis Pro already back on track. Dennis Kurtz has another 7 seconds on the air jacks before he gets moving.
I also still have 12 cars running in this race, which may not sound the most, seeing how we started with 18, but this track combination is just very, very brutal. I mean, everybody knows GT3s at the Nordschleife, but the GT3X is just such a step up from a normal GT3 car. It's almost closer to prototype in terms of driving feel. And you can really see that these guys are fighting for every position. Dominic Lala now again with the advantage on the straight. The delta slowly coming down, but won't be enough to make an attack. So we'll have to wait for the Dirtinger. It is basically the polar opposite of what we had last time about with the M2s, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think you can get much more of a different set of cars in RENNSPORT without introducing the hypercars, that's for sure. They're not just in horsepower, but also in the way they generate grip is very, very different.
Taking it a bit more cautiously as well through some of these sections. So I've seen Alizai, for example, fly off at Hohe 8. And Alizai already has taken out 4 seconds out of Kaya, who himself has decreased the gap to Noiseringer by another 3 seconds.
Yeah, Kaya seems to have picked up his pace. Ali's not making quite the gains he was last lap, but he is still gaining a couple of tenths in each sector. Obviously, a lot of sectors here on the Nordschleife, so that all adds up by the end of the lap.
And we are just at half time, essentially. The nice weather here at the Nordschleife being mentioned in chat as well, which, yeah, it is. I mean, especially now at this daytime, the sun going down. I think it's a very nice ambient.
Kimi Harpler might have 20 seconds at the beginning of the race. Sorry, 20-second gap to second place. But he's not letting off. I think he wants his purple lap back. He's set 4 purple sectors this lap.
Oh, Enrico with a big slide and on the grass. This is the big chance here for Dominic Lala, who's going onto the curbing, around the outside into Galgenkopf and now onto the grass. He can somehow keep it pointed to the right direction. If he doesn't lose too much time here on exit, he may be able to still make a move going down into Hohenrhein. But what a combination of moves we've seen.
The gap's starting to close now as Ladler's top speed setup seems to be picking up pace, aided with that draft. It's got a good amount of overspeed.
Alongside the playseat Porsche, lower downforce, less wind resistance, and he goes by. But I don't think it's done yet. I think Enrico will try to make a move down into turn 1. Setting everything up for a good exit here, and he does indeed get a very good exit.
Yeah, he's well set up for a turn 1 overtake here. Of course, inside on turn 1 means outside on turn 2.
Diving in early, Dominic Lala trying to make the cutback, but losing the rear end ever so slightly. And with that, Enrico Breuninger is back up into second place.
The difference between the cars was about 10 kilometers an hour down Dottinger Hohe there. Now, I know that was still with a bit of overspeed from the drafting that Dominic Ladler had. But he definitely seems to have gone for the faster setup in a straight line.
Yeah, it is a double-edged sword, because in lap time you would expect Enrico Breuninger to be a bit quicker with the downforce, especially in the sections like Hatzenbach. You have the where complex from Adenauer Forst up to Kesselchen. Then you have the complex from Hohe Acht to Galgenkopf, which the downforce is really helping you out. But the Göttinger Höhe, the start-finish straight, the run up to Schwedenkreuz, and the up the hill run through Kesselchen are so crucial in terms of lap times because they are super long. It really is a very upscaled version of any other track you know.
Yeah, any little bit of speed you lose at the beginning of Göttinger Höhe, you just continue losing speed all the way, well, time, all the way down it. So it really is important to get a good run there for your overall lap time.
And I tell you what, Kaya is still looking very much for that P4 finish. It's 10 seconds or 11 seconds away from him, but he has 26 minutes left. The gap to Noah Zeringer is 4.7 seconds. Getting past him may not be the easiest. We don't quite know yet. I mean, Noah has held off a big amount of cars at the start of the race, that's for sure.
Give me Heartblood here saying absolutely not as far as fastest lap's concerned, and setting a 7:48.8. He wants that purple lap.
And if he wants something, he's usually trying to get something as well. Speeds the cars are doing going into Arenberg is just insane. It's no lift whatsoever. And with that, Dominik Ladler is right back on the gearbox of that playseat Porsche.
Speaking a little about the potential battle between Zahir and Angermeyer. Ali Zahir's lap was 12 seconds. 8 seconds faster than Kaya's last lap. So he's closed the gap a fair decent amount. It's down to about 50 seconds now. But he's not got a lot of time left to close the rest of it up, but he's taken a big chunk out in one lap.
He will probably run out of laps though, so Kaya doesn't really need to worry about him. That's definitely good for him. I'm sure he knows how much of a threat Alizai can be, and again a twitch on the rear. Sometimes the front, sometimes the rear.
I don't think Kaya's too worried about that at the minute though, because he's mainly trying to close up to Noah ahead of him. Got the gap up 2.5 seconds now, so I think he's more looking forward than looking back.
And he has good reasons for it. I mean, Noah just made a bit of a mistake going through Adenauer Forst, and now he's within a second. If he can get by on Kesselchen, it will allow him to, well, really use his pace down the hill, because he seems to be very quick in the lower downforce, in the higher downforce sections. Oh, and Dominik Lala making a move side by side with Enrico Bräuninger up the hill, and that's exactly what Kaya Angermeyer is probably looking forward to do. But can Dominik Lala complete the move? And yes, he does. And back up into second. Does he slide a bit wide? No, he does not. It's a constant back and forth between these two.
Yeah, they seem to be just going out there to have some fun today and see how many times they can overtake.
Oh, and Noah Zeringer losing the rear end a bit out of Bergwerk, and now Kaya Angermeyer already moving past before Kesselchen. He now just has to watch out and get a good enough exit for Noah to not reclaim this position. But he seems to be in a good position, unfortunately for Kaya.
Yeah, he's a little bit back, but he's still definitely within the drafting zone.
But Kaya's pulling away. I think Noah does have a lot more wing on his car just to be safe. And that is giving Kaya the edge here. And that's Kaya Angama up into P5. Who would have thought after that start of a race? But I presume both Noah and Jörg are running a higher ring than the likes of Kaya, Ladler, Shrigo and Harpala. But it really seems to pay off for them, because they are pretty safe in their cars and they're currently running P4 and 6, starting much further down the order, beating the likes of Alizaya. So they can be pretty proud of that, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. And both of them also on Xbox. Don't have many Xbox people on the broadcasts, but they both are.
And Enrico Bronia not really close to Dominik Ladler here. Again, big slide here through Galgenkopf.
He had a little bit of a moment getting on the power a bit too early a couple of corners ago, so he dropped back a little bit because of that. But this should be the section where Ladler's setup shines and you can grow that gap even more.
So advantage Dominik Ladler in this moment of the race. Of course, if you want to take part in these races next year, then all you have to do is check out the schedules either in the app or on the Discord and join the race. Of course, for this one you do need to own the Nordschleife, but other than that it's free to enter, 0 SR. For the RCL and other special events like the RENNSPORT community events, you will have to have some safety rating, but other than that you're free to enter as well and have some great races with the community. Can also show you what's coming up next, because in not 2 weeks time, in 3 weeks time, we will have the GT4s on this track, which always have been either very dramatic or very fun. I think
sounds both.
sounds about right. I mean, either you had cars drifting through every corner in the hands of Alizai or Julian Chico, or you had a Ron and Hood entering Mood Curve well, the wrong way around, mainly on the roof. And some very... Yeah, and as Radoslav Pionkiewicz in chat also rightly says, sometimes also both at once, dramatic and fun. And after that, we go back to GT3s, the classics. And this time, other than round 1, with open setups, which may make things a bit more interesting.
And a little bit of a longer race as well, which always mixes things up a little bit.
Very much so indeed. Now, Zeringa somewhere has lost quite a lot of time. Seems like he picked up some damage on the front left as well. Alizano 25 seconds back from him. And of course, in the RCL, we will also continue next year. On the 3rd is the first race, if I remember correctly. And after Jeddah, I think that will be very interesting. Especially with some newer drivers we've seen over the last few races in the races.
Yeah, we've had some good surprises, I think, with some of the newer people turning up. Some of the console crowd. Also some new PC people. It's really kind of like spiced things up a little bit. Everyone's not quite sure what to make of everyone else who's new, but there's been some really fantastic racing going on.
Another driver we haven't mentioned once in this race, I think, except for some pit stops at the start, was Andreas Gau, who's just sneaked his way up into P8. He's got Michael G a long way back and Alizai a long way in front, but he's pretty set in that P8. And he also, I think, was one of the 4 cars that came into the pits after the first lap.
Yeah, he had a little bit of damage, but it wasn't a lot. He got it repaired pretty quickly and back out on track. And his lap times are fairly respectable, so I can't imagine Michael G's going to be catching him anytime soon. But he's still circulating at a decent pace.
Michael G, even with a pit stop and a drive-through, still in P9, Nemesis Pro behind him in P10, but 40 seconds back. So, unless there's some mistake involved, unlikely that something will happen between those two. Currently looks like a very big points payout for Kimi Harpala, which puts them right into the fight for the podium positions, at least in the championship. And also Pascal Meisel in P12. He may be quite far off the rest of the pack, but Wimber had to crab his way to the pits from pretty much the start of the lap, so still huge respect to him for sticking around and not giving up that easily.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always, it's not good to see because, you know, they've got in for a bit of a boring race, but it's good to see that people are willing to carry on and finish.
To my knowledge, Kimi Harpala also still with the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, his last lap, it slowed down a little bit to do a 7:53, which is more kind of on the pace of the people behind him. I think he's fairly happy with his gap, and he's not wanting to risk anything. He's circulating around doing fairly normal kind of sector times. Dominic Ladler, arguably his first clean lap without having to battle Enrico Breuninger. So he was quite a bit up on his delta, but then he lost a bit of time. He's slowly regaining it again.
I've just put the current positions into my trusty Excel sheet to see how the points would develop. And the situation is actually quite interesting going into the last 2 races. Because as it stands right now with Enrico in 3rd and Dominic Lala in 2nd and so on, he would be 20 points ahead. So 60 points for Enrico to Dominic Lala on 40 points. Also on 40 points, Ali Zahir. So, of course, for him a bit unfortunate. Oh, as Enrico's going across the grass here. For him a bit unfortunate with his off because he was quick enough for this race to come out victorious. But both of them, I think, still have a good shot at the championship if they have a good race in the GT4s.
Yeah, true, absolutely. I think still all to play for with 2 races to go. So got a bit of a holiday period to get some practice in with the GT4s around here, and come back next year fighting strong.
Kimi Harpala would jump into 4th position in the championship. Those 28 points would put him on 29 points actually, on 32. So he would pass Julian Chicot, who was 2nd going into this race. So unfortunately couldn't be here today. So he remains on 31 and in P5. Jörg Masurat jumping up to 9th. Kaya Angermeier currently would be 10th in the championship with 1 race. And Schwego now in the slipstream trying to make a move, but we know that Dominic Lala is super strong on the straight line with his slowdown for setup. And then
the last lap where they had a gap between them, the difference between the 2 cars was about 5 kph.
And this is all about setup. It's not about the car, because, I mean, of course, they're driving the same car. Maybe this time going down the inside again into Yokohama S. Dominic Lala again going the long way around before he has lost the rear end and couldn't defend, but this time gets a good enough exit and still stays in front of Enrico Bräuninger.
Oh, that was very close.
I think soon these two will take gloves off. Enrico's already tapping Dominic Lala, pushing him to go faster. And Dominic Lala does not budge. He is one of the best defending drivers.
And Ali Zahir rapidly catching up to Noah in P6 right now. He's on a really quick lap, so he's probably in two minds about whether it's a good or a bad thing. But probably the best thing he could have, as he gets a bit extra draft down Dottinger.
And if he gets the fastest lap point, and with this change in position, it gets him closer to Enrico Bräuninger. He just has to hope that Enrico does not pass Dominic Ladler again. For Kaya, it's still just under 6 seconds with 2 laps to go. So everything for him to play for P4, but definitely has to keep on pushing. And just as I said, Jörg Masuert must have made a mistake out of turn 1 because Kaya Angermeyer just went past. But luckily for Jörg, his car is still in very good shape, so he can continue to fight.
Ali finishing that lap with a 750.231. Still a second shy of the purple lap, but he's definitely got some speed on right now. He's got almost 15 seconds faster than Kaya Angermeyer and Jörg Masuert. So that 27-minute gap. So it's going to be maybe 2 laps left. It's possible.
Question is, does Ali go flat out? To what I him, yes, he will. Whether that will be to catch Jörg Masuert or if that will be to dethrone Kimi Hapler in terms of the fastest lap is to be seen. But Kaya slowly but surely making a bit of a gap to Masuert. Definitely an action-packed race for him. One of probably the worst starts you can have to enter a league, to one of the, well, best comeback drives you could do. Getting back up into P4. Oh, but nearly losing it over the curb, bottoming out because he's just gone a bit too far. And Jörg is right back on his tail. Is he going to make a move into Schwedenkreuz? That is the big question here.
If these two keep fighting and holding each other up, then that's only going to benefit Zahir.
And Jörg making a move the outside, keeping it on track and moving past up into P4. I think that's the last thing that Kaya wanted to see. Just a tiny mistake going a bit too wide. And Jörg not hesitating, but immediately jumping on the opportunity.
Yeah, he pounced on that one, didn't he? He could barely fit a piece of paper between those two cars side by side going around the corner.
It also was a beautifully executed move, just using the overspeed going towards the outside, where he probably feels more comfortable with the more downforce he has, compared to the straight line rocket of Kaya, at least in relation to his car.
Enrico Bräuninger now 9 seconds behind Dominic Ladler. I can only imagine he had a bit of a moment there, because that is a big gap to have suddenly opened up.
It is indeed. Maybe just cracked a little, trying to get back that position. But he has a very big buffer to Jörg Masurat, and it's only growing at the moment. So as long as he keeps it on track, he still goes home with a very good result. And Enrico is somebody who really sees the bigger picture in those moments, I think. And Kaya right on the tail of Jörg Masurat. We'll probably wait for Kesselchen. Is he going to make a move before that?
Masurat seems to go a little bit defensive around that corner there.
Kaya almost pushing him up the hill and now trying to go the long way around the outside, collecting speed. He has to watch out in the left-hander to have no contact. He avoids contact, but by that spinning, and that will lose him a lot of time. It doesn't seem like he had too big of an impact with the wall, but yeah, just a bit too early. Just a bit too early.
Yeah, it was a sketchy side-by-side action there. Everything was a little bit twitchy. Kaya having a bit of an incident, but at least you can say that he didn't collect Masurat as well.
Yeah, it definitely is a very tricky situation he found himself in. Alizar now, of course, with that only 9 seconds back. Because if he didn't go for the inside, he would have lost all momentum. He basically wouldn't have been able to pass. Because even with the lower downforce setup, it's hard to regenerate the speed on an incline like you have in Kesselchen. If he would have not overturned in the middle of the corner to avoid contact, he would have made contact with Masurat and they both would have spun. That is, I think, a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah.
So if he just drifted into him, yeah, it wouldn't really have looked much pretty, and this just caused him to spin and not collect too much damage. Bit front right damage, I think. And if he can get back into the rhythm, he is potentially a bit quicker. So 10 seconds, of course, is a bigger gap, but Jörg Masurat has made a mistake before last lap. So maybe he does another one.
I don't think it's going to be too long before he has an angry Ali Zahir breathing down the back of his neck. If we're lucky, it'll all come together at the same time.
I'm not sure Kaya would agree with that, but yes, I see where you're coming from. Dennis Kurzem has moved back into the top 10 as well. So moving past Nemesis Pro, who's dropped down to 11th. Kimi Hapler has started the final lap of this race. Dominik Lala 30 seconds back. That's also what a gap Kimi Hapler has created over the last 57 minutes. I mean, 30 seconds. Yeah. Dominik Lala had a lot of fights. He dropped back a bit, but that is still a big feat.
Yeah, I mean, Harper's clearly backed off his pace a little bit. He's not pushing quite the lap times he was before, but even so, he's still the fastest car on track. Except for Ali Zahir.
Ali Zahir really went on a rampage after his pit stop.
Yeah, this lap not so good for him. I think he must have had a little couple of moments, so he's a little bit off the lap times he has been doing. But yeah, he's only 2.5 seconds behind Kaya right now. He's definitely got him in his sights.
Only 2 seconds separating him from a top 5 position.
course, he's going to want to get as many points out of this race as he can. And as you said before, he's not a driver that's been known to hold back.
Certainly not. But what an up and down race for Kaya Angermeier here and for Alizai. I think for Alizai it's been a very deep drop at the midpoint of LeBron, and since then he's moved up perhaps 8 places.
Yeah, he's gained a lot of places after that start he had, really. The start of the race was bad for him and he dropped a lot. But he's just stuck to it and been setting ridiculously quick laps, one after another.
Oh, but losing... And that was such an unlucky situation. Alizai made a good move going into Vedor, basically to explain what happened here. And then lost the rear end, therefore lost a lot of speed, and the right-hander, Kaya, could not react because they were just so close to each other. And basically Alizai spinning across the front end of the Platinum Livid Porsche. Well, nobody's fault, but...
No, he's back pointing the right way now, and he's immediately putting the hammer down, as we expect Alizai here to do. He's thought 5 seconds, I can make that up.
Yeah, of course, still far from over. I think Jörg Masurat with that is pretty clear.
Yes.
I presume
the gap between Jörg Masurat and Kaya is kind of growing a little bit at the minute. That might be more due to where they are on track than anything, but still, it is 16, 17 seconds, so that's a lot of an ask for one lap.
It sure is, unless, of course, there is a mistake. But at this point, everybody seems to be quite settled with the car, so normal mistakes, not something we've seen in the last 2 or 3 laps. I mean, with Alizai, I presume he is running without TC, to what I know from him. But, yeah, just so unlucky. He had to catch the car, and of course, very unfortunate when you slide across the front end of your direct opponent. As Norzeringer just also unfortunately DNF'd from this race. Of course, super disappointed late in the race.
Yeah, and so far into the race, that's a bit of a painful one to take.
Enrico, now 11.7 seconds down, so after he mysteriously lost about 9 seconds, he still couldn't get the pace back up to where he was before. Dominic Lala just increasing the gap between the two of them lap by lap. And only 1 point, well, not point anymore, 1 second between him and Kaya actually letting Alizai pass, so he deeming himself at fault, so definitely fair sportsmanship here by Kaya Angermeier, even though one might argue it wasn't his fault, this one. But this moves Alizai up into 5th place, and with that he's suddenly finding himself on 44 points. Meaning 4 points closer to Enrico Bräuninger. But it is only 1 straight left for the Swede, for Kimi Harpler. The man who pretty much dominated this race. What a performance it has been by him, right?
Yeah, it's been fast, it's been smooth, and he just seems to have grown that gap to the front lap after lap. It's been a really great race for Kimi. Probably not the most interesting race for him, but definitely a fairly dominant performance.
One final time through Hohenrhein into Tiergarten. And Kimi Hapla wins race number 3 of Season 4 in the GT3X. And it seems like Dominik Ladler will come home in second, decreasing Enrico's lead in the championship, putting himself third in the championship and right back in the hunt where he is usually found. But he had to fight for it, and he had to fight for it hard.
Yeah, for sure. He had a fairly extended battle with Enrico Bräuninger today, and I'm sure they both had a lot of fun.
It certainly was one of the most intense battles on the Nordschleife these two have had, especially at these speeds the GT3X is doing around here. And then it's quite the gap to Jörg Maserat, but still, I mean, P4 for him after the start with all these drivers doing mistakes.
And our highest placed console finisher today.
That is very true.
So you can take the console cup.
And Pascal Meisel just now also moved up into the top 10, moving past Nemesis Pro.
Yeah, Nemesis Pro's Porsche is not looking happy. It's a fairly sad looking, very expensive car.
Final time, accelerating out of 409 for him as well. For his, I think, best finish in any official race.
I think so, yeah. And his car's looking in pretty good condition, so he's done a good job of staying out of trouble.
And then it's the two comeback kids, Alizai and Kaya Angermeyer. Far down the order after lap 1 and in P5 and 6 at the end of the race. What a feat by both of them. Little clash there at the end, but I think nothing these two should be worried about. I think with this we should have a look at the provisional results. Because, yes, we said in the race it is looking quite interesting now in the championship.
Yeah, I think since you did your provisional calculations, Alizai managed to get a few extra places and he got a few points of a lead on top of Dominik Ladler.
Yeah, indeed, he's now sitting on 44 points compared to the 40 points he was on before. And yeah, 16 points is quite a buffer Enrico has, but it certainly can swing any other way, basically. After today's race, if Alizai wouldn't have had lost the car, and of course it's always a lot of ifs, but he certainly was the quickest driver alongside Kimi Hapla, and Enrico had both Kimi Hapla and Dominik Ladler in between, where this could bring him back into the championship fight. And also, if you take a look at the team tags for a short moment, you can see that they surely may join forces. But yeah, I mean, Enrico again, a very, very great drive here by him. Dominik Ladler on 40 points, right back into the mix. Kimi Hapla on 32. He had 3 points before from the first GT3 race, which he unfortunately couldn't finish, but which he also started on pole, just to reiterate what kind of pace he is bringing to the table. Then Julian Chico, Theodor Popa, unfortunately not here today, Luciano Caso as well, but these are still at least on the fight for the top 5 and top 3 potentially. And then some of the regular point scorers really moving up the grid. Michael G, Jörg Maserat, Roger Nies, even though he didn't finish here today, is still sitting there in 11th. Kaya with his performance today in 12th. I'd say let's see what 2026 brings.
Yeah, still 2 rounds to go, so definitely a lot of points to play for. And I'm sure the GT4s, the next race, is going to be a fairly exciting one. I'm always a bit more of a fan of the slower cars as far as close racing's concerned. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think the GT4 is a good mix between slow car and fast car.
Indeed. So with all that said, I'd say we wish you a great Christmas time. We wish you a Happy New Year. And yeah, if there are any news, we will let you know on the Discord and on the socials. So thank you for sticking with us through 2025. And we are looking forward to see you all back in 2026. Goodbye.
Goodbye.